Hey there. Welcome to the Notebook. It's the first of its kind. It's a pilot episode. We're going for it after the spring game here for Ohio State. If you've ever watched the growing sport popularity, F1, taking a page from Ted Kravitz of Sky Sports, Ted's Notebook, incredibly informative, I think. It's more straight news. It's going to be different than Snap Judgments. We're still going to do that. But I'm going to go through some of the things that I learned. And as we get into the season, we're going to do a little bit more sort of behind the scenes. If it's on the road, maybe some cool things that we see around the stadium. If it's here in the Horseshoe, maybe we'll peek in and we'll steal some food from the recruiting room. Maybe there'll be some interviews that we get after the game. We're going to try some different things just to continue to give some more behind the scenes analysis of the game as well. So it tends to be, this is probably going to be more of the news stuff, and then we'll get in when Bill and Berm join me later on with Snap Judgments, or beforehand, depending on when you watch, doesn't matter. You'll have both things. So we're going to give it a try. We're going to see how it goes and bring that back in the season. If it sucks, you can blame me because I'm the only one that's talking about it. Bill's behind the camera helping us out today. We're going to get into it. As we leave here, this is the press conference room. So Ryan Day has already spoken, had Devin Brown and Kyle McCord come in here. Cody Simon and Denzel Burke spoke for the defense. So it was a little bit of a quick one. Not the full team available. They were back here at these tables. The defensive guys, the quarterbacks were at the podium. They talked for a couple minutes. Nothing too groundbreaking, but you can tell that the defensive guys, Denzel Burke in particular, was talking a great deal about the confidence that this defense has played with. Now, they won today. I don't know what that means. It was 40-31 in the official score. They got credit for 3 and outs. They got credit for any turnovers, which really weren't any of that going on. Sacks were 2 points. There were plenty of those. You could see that the defense really felt some momentum going, and that's been the theme throughout the spring, that they've been ahead of a little bit of the offense. We'll peek in here. This is the recruiting room. Normally, Bill and I would come in here. There'd be some nice spreads out here available to us. We'd grab some food. Ohio State's already done with that. Also, they have a barbecue scheduled today, so they're not in here. But you can see all the balloons. This is where they'd bring some players. We're one floor above from the locker room. We're going to head down right now as we continue to go through that. Something we're going to do is try and just maybe go through positionally and some things that I wrote down. That was hard today because it was offense versus defense for Scarlet and Gray. They didn't break it up. It was, I would call it a pretty disjointed scrimmage. You could tell the way with Kyle McCord that you could sense a little bit of frustration for him. The offense didn't get going, that first half especially. 11 for 22, no touchdown in the first half, 114 yards. Devin Brown, of course, didn't play. He's got his hand in that splint. You could not very comfortable. About 4 weeks in the recovery left for him. He's missed the last week of practice, so that meant Tristan Gebbia got those 2 reps. Kyle McCord played a great amount. He did cap today with a really good throw to Carnell Tate in the fourth quarter. Both Kyle McCord and Ryan Day sort of went through that play and what that meant. It was good protection, which didn't happen all the time for Ohio State. It was a good route by Carnell Tate, and then a perfect ball from Kyle McCord, which was, there's Dom. What'd you think, Dom?
I thought they're not ready to play a game, but they got some athletes down there.
Well,
there's some athletes.
It's better to have athletes than not
They're
enough.
not to have athletes.
That's right. That's why they pay us for our takes.
And when you figure out who the starting quarterback is, you let me know.
I will. Well, today there was only one option, right? So Kyle McCord made the most of that opportunity. This is the good stuff right here as well as we go through. Bill, we might need to take Angel Food smoothies. What do we think about that? Strawberry kiwi. So the Buckeyes come out here. They had their choice of empty fruit snacks or every kind of smoothie imaginable to them. Power chocolate, peanut butter, power. Delightful stuff out here. We're going to come, these can't go to waste, so we're going to have to grab some of those when we get out of here. Delicious. You can tell red coats were working too hard out there. A hot day in the sun has worked back. I think everybody is cleared out of the locker room at this point. Ohio State's got a bunch of recruits on campus, and they're done with spring. They're going to recover and rewind a little bit, and I bet there'll be a nice little contingent of players at the concert in the Woody tonight as well to unwind. So we'll peek in a little bit down here. Yep, training staff. The Buckeyes are done down here, so they've closed the doors to the locker room. Training staff is empty. A good day from that regard for Ohio State. I didn't really, other than Dallin Hayden getting popped really good over the middle on a tough catch, and Ohio State going with a full contact period. He got up a little gingerly. He was limping a little bit in the second half, but nothing serious, nothing compared to what happened last year in the spring game where Mitchell Melton got hurt, had to leave. It was a season-ending injury. Actually talked to Mitchell Melton in the tunnel on the way up here. He was dressed, didn't have on the full pads, couldn't go again. He's somebody that throughout spring has really wanted to get out and be involved again. You can tell he wants to play that jack position. He's got the potential to really make that spot his own, and Ohio State worked without it. And you didn't see really much of that at all today on the defensive side. When you go through that, just going through, look at the starters for Ohio State, whatever you can learn from that is limited, I guess. But I thought it was interesting that on the defensive line, they came out with Ty Hamilton and Tyleik Williams to start with. Not Mike Hall. Once Mike Hall got in there on that second series, I mean, he was unblockable. It was almost unfair to have him out there. Ohio State's offensive line definitely didn't seem to have a good time when Mike Hall was out there. Jack Sawyer and JT Tuamola, as expected, at defensive end. No real surprises there in the secondary. Denzel Burke and Jordan Hancock at corner. Cameron Martinez working in the nickel as he has throughout spring camp as first team. Jahad Carter did not practice today. He's been dealing with that knee injury for the last 2 weeks. Lathan Ransom at Bandit and Josh Proctor at the adjuster. And then with Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers was on crutches again today. He's got a case of turf toe that Ohio State is trying to manage. It's not something that they fear is long-term in any way. I was told that he doesn't need any medical procedure. They just wanted him to rest, but he was on crutches. So both of those starting linebackers not available. It meant a lot of reps for C.J. Hicks, Cody Simon. And as I flipped through the notebook, I would see C.J. Hicks's name in here a good amount. There were at least 2 opportunities where he jumped some routes and looked like he could have had an interception. After one, so JT Tuamola, I didn't count him. I would say he played maybe 10 reps, Bill. I think he's nodding. I might be right about that. We'll go back and look at that later. Had a towel on, and he was still engaged on the sideline. C.J. Hicks had one in the second half, an interception. He dropped it, could have had it. JT Tuamola, as soon as that drive ends, he jumps out there. He's grabbing a football and throwing him to C.J. Hicks on the sideline to try and get that drop out of his mind and get work. So, like you could tell, that's some good leadership. JT Tuamola has been obviously trying to work on developing that. Gave some speeches before the Peach Bowl, and then he was doing that with a younger guy. C.J. Hicks, a good spring. Who knows what that means? He was involved in a handful of tackles. Ohio State struggled to get together the final stats. I don't have that in front of me at this point. They're still trying to figure it out. Part of the issue, as you can see right here on this copy, is, well, it said 10-0, scarlet and gray. That doesn't just when you make up a scoring system, that makes it hard for stat broadcasts to account for that. They don't know that your sacks are worth 2 points, for example, or a 3-and-out is worth 3. The score was 40-31. If I didn't say that earlier on, it doesn't matter. One of the touchdowns was scored by Archie Griffin. He ran in untouched around the right side after a handoff from Kyle McCord. That's a free 6 points for the offense on a day when otherwise they were struggling to really get it going. So put in a 2-time Heisman Trophy winner, and I guess some magic happens. It was cool to see. There's no doubt about that. Ohio State, obviously, they didn't just pull him out of the stands. They planned that. We knew that situation could come about. I didn't think it was going to be with the starters. I didn't think it was going to be at a time when the defense was really pulling away in the scoring system, but he got in there. That was the second touchdown of the day after Chip Trainum had busted a long one also down that right sideline. It looked like he expected maybe somebody to blow the whistle or somebody to make a tackle on him as he got to that sideline, but nobody did. He got the angle, it looked to me, on Reed Carrico, and then it was sort of, okay, well, the power part is gone. He's through the hole, tiptoed down the sideline, and then down for a long touchdown. Gave Ohio State a little bit of confidence there offensively going into the locker room for whatever that means. I mean, you can tell that Ryan Day is a little frustrated. I don't want to put words in his mouth that the offense didn't go out there and really put on a display today the way they would have wanted. Now, part of that, of course, we've talked about throughout spring, is Emeka Egbuka, Julian Fleming being limited, Xavier Johnson being on a scooter as he has had a medical procedure as well on his leg. So that's three, four pretty big weapons that you're taking out of the equation. Ohio State started the day at wide receiver with Marvin Harrison, Carnell Tate, and Jaden Ballard. Jaden Ballard, I thought, had a pretty good day outside of one muffed punt. Jesse Mirko hit an absolute banger deep and over his head. Jaden Ballard tried to make a play going over the shoulder. Didn't work. We've seen Ohio State do that too many times over the last several years. They probably just want to let that ball go over their head and not take a risk. But at wide receiver, Jaden Ballard, I thought was really good. There was one we're trying to decide if it was a drop or Denzel Burke, if there was a maybe slightly off target throw by Kyle McCord. Hit him in the hands. It could have been a big play early on in the scrimmage or in the spring game. Didn't quite work out, but he was pretty spring. Cornell Tate, as mentioned, right over here in this end zone. As you can see, the rest of the Ohio State media getting ready to shoot all their stand-ups. We're doing them already. Right here was that touchdown for Cornell Tate to cap that. You had, Noah Rogers. What's that? Jerry said stats. He's got some stats. All right. Thanks, Jerry. What an adventure in the spring game, right?
Yeah.
Hard to keep stats when the rules are made up and the point scoring is made up?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you have a computer system, we've got an outstanding computer system, but it's just not going to keep Ohio State versus Ohio State very well. So we had to use the old one.
Yeah, the score. I mean, you can't if the score says 10-0 at halftime, and then you're trying to figure out how to work it all. It's a bizarre system.
Yeah, and especially when the winning team, you don't even have any of the scoring plays.
Was Archie Griffin in the system ready for this game or not?
He was put in the system.
Jerry Emig, Ace Ohio State SID right there. Thank you for the stats, Jerry. All right, so to put an official bow on that, 18 for 34 for Kyle McCord. He's credited with 184 and a touchdown. He was sacked 3 times. Who knows what any of those really mean? A lot of plays were blown dead really quickly. You only had to touch them. Chip Trainum led the way for the rushing attack. 8 carries, 110 yards. We mentioned that long 65-yard touchdown run. Jesse Mirko in there with that 64-yard punt that I mentioned, credited with 4 inside the 20. And then Archie Griffin, 25 yards per attempt and a touchdown. That seems pretty good. If they can, does he have a COVID year available? I don't know. If you could get a 2-time Heisman Trophy winner on your roster, I think you definitely would. What else should I touch on, Bill? It's a spring game, and it was a beautiful day. They announced around 75,000 fans here. I don't think that was quite what they got to. It didn't look that way, but certainly an enjoyable experience, I think, for the people who come out here. Maybe they wanted to see more offensive fireworks. I wouldn't blame them for that. You had a lot of former Buckeyes down here. Cardale Jones, JT Barrett were both down here, pressing the flesh. A lot of recruits were in the building. We'll have Berm talk about that as well, what that means. Aaron Nolan and Jeremiah Smith, most notably among the Ohio State commits. That's his specialty. We'll let him get into that. But, yeah, I don't know. This is a trial run. You can let us know what you think. We're going to, as I said early on when we started, we're going to hope to add more just brief interviews, kind of like what we did there with Jerry as we walked through, or Dom. Maybe by the time the season rolls around, those will be some players and coaches. We tend to know where to be and when to be to provide some different looks than we know that you've seen in the past. So we're going to try and add it to the arsenal. We're going to work on it. We're going to do this maybe better than we did the first time. But life is about reps. And Ohio State got a lot of them today out here on a gorgeous Saturday in the Horseshoe. Spring camp is a wrap, and the first edition of the Notebook is too. So thanks for joining us, and we'll have a lot more coverage coming of the Ohio State spring game on the podcast. I'll see you there.